Good evening, everyone. I, Janet Veracruz, Vice President of the Duncanville ISD Board of Trustees, call this meeting of the Duncanville Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of Board of Trustees is present, that the meeting has been duly called, and that the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. Good evening, everyone. Our mission at Duncanville ISD is to engage, equip, and empower all scholars to achieve their unique potential. We will now go into closed session. Good evening. We are back from closed session, and we will continue with our agenda items. We will now move to take action on items in closed session. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term teacher contract to the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year?
So moved.
Second.
I have Phil McNeely moved and Jackie Colton seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, and discussions? Motion passed 5-0.
No, we got to vote. All in favor?
It's not on there. All in favor, raise your right hand, please. All in favor? Motion passed 5-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term professional contract to the listed employees for the 22-23 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Jackie Colton moved and Phil McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, and discussions? Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term administrator contract to the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year?
We got to vote on the ones before. What motion was that?
We're on motion 2.
You just read motion 3.
Yeah.
So here's what you can do. Why don't you go?
So may I have a vote from, a vote for motion 1, motion 2, please?
This would be just for motion 2.
Motion
Yeah.
2 is correct. Yeah, the part
I'm not on the camera.
Are there any questions, comments, or discussions on motion 2? Please raise your right hand for vote. In favor of? 5-0. Number 3, motion passed 5-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to extend one-year term administrative contract to the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year? So moved.
Second.
Carla Fahey moved, and Jackie Colton seconds the motion. Are there any questions or comments or discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passed 5-0. Do Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to one-year probationary teacher contract for the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Carla Fahey moved and Phil McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? Please raise your right hand. All in favor of? Motion passed 5-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to one-year probationary professional contract for the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Jackie Colton and Phil McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, and discussions? All in favor of passing, raise your right hand. Motion passed 5-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to one-year non-certified contract for the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Carla Fahey moved and Phil McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? All in favor, please raise your right hand. 5-0, motion passed 5-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations to take no action on the contracts for the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Ivory moved and Phil McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, and discussion? Please raise your right hand. 5-0, motion passed 5-0. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation to terminate the probationary contract for the listed employees for the 2022-23 school year?
We're not doing 8
Okay, I'm so sorry. We'll scratch that.
and no 9.
And no 9. Thank you so much.
Could you do 7?
Now we will move into the invocation. Please, I will present the prayer. If you please bow your heads, and Phil McNeely will do the pledge. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to meet together. We welcome and come united to be a reflection of your kingdom. Breathe life into our discussions and decisions. Help us to be a team of leaders, educators, and trustees that have love and respect at its heart. Lord, I speak a blessing for those attending tonight and involved in the presentations and those behind the scenes. Lord, we pray a blessing over this meeting, that it will be done in excellence. In your mighty name we say amen. Phil McNeely for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance honor
We will now move to the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Madam Vice President, board members, those that are in attendance. I have the following items that I would like to report on this evening. The first item is the District Art Show. So the District Art Show was on Thursday, March 24th. I did have an opportunity to attend this event. Was so pleased with what I saw, and the work that the students had created was absolutely awesome. So students from all over the district, they showcased their artwork for this year's annual event. They showed off the colorful creations. In particular, there were students at Smith Elementary with their shell work that caught my attention. It was absolutely awesome. We also saw tennis shoe art, realistic pencil and charcoal drawings, and many, many more. This year, the artwork continued to be on display even after the show ended. It was in a different location this year than it was in previous years, and so they were able to extend the time in which the artwork was visible. And so it was in the lobby area there of Alexander Auditorium and Shine Performance Hall, and it remained in that space for an additional week. And so it was just good for me to be able to see our students and see their creativity. Many of those students are moving on for other competitions. This was an opportunity for them to put their artwork out there. And they had, for those of you that were able to attend, they had a lot of pride when you walked up to their area and they were explaining their artwork. I mean, you could tell they put a lot of work into it. So I want to thank our fine arts team, our arts teachers all across the district, and of course the students and the work that they did. The next item that I have is to report on the Winter Park Ski Musical Competition. These are photos of our students. Many of these students have done such an awesome job in their choir program. You know, we have a nationally known choir program. They do an outstanding job, and they're gaining recognition all across the country, and we're so very proud of them. Earlier in the year, Board, you approved for the choir to travel to Winter Park, Colorado for a music competition and gain a unique experience that, you know, many of our students hadn't been out of Texas, and so they had an opportunity to go to Colorado. They had an opportunity to experience things that maybe they otherwise would not have experienced. But they also took care of business too. This was a business trip, and they went there to take care of business and to do what Duncanville Choir does, and we all know what they do. They perform at the highest level, and so they received special awards there. They got a superior rating, they got a best in class, and they were named grand champions, and so we're really proud of them and proud of the experience that they had there. And they are brave souls, because I'm not sure I would have skied. But that's another topic there. The next item I have is a pre-K roundup. As you know, Board, we are placing a huge emphasis on early childhood education and getting our early childhood students back to school from the pandemic. And so last week, we held our first in-person pre-K enrollment event where parents who had questions about our programming, they were able to get those questions answered. They were able to see and meet many of our staff members with pre-K classes for 3 and 4-year-old children in Duncanville. We are continuing to expand those opportunities for our youngest learners and provide them an exceptional start as they begin their academic career. And so we enrolled 99 pre-K students. That's a really good number for us as we continue to spread the word and get the students. We had signs and promotions all across town, and we did a social media blast, and so it was a great event. Dr. Allocation and her team did an awesome job, and we'll be continuing to share the details with you as our program continues to grow. But we're excited to bring these young learners into Duncanville and get them started. If they start with us early, they tend to stay with us throughout. And so this was a great opportunity to get them in our schools. Next, we had job fair this past weekend. I know some of our board members had an opportunity to attend, and we thank you for that. Kathleen Brown and the Human Resources team did an awesome job. We had an auxiliary job fair last week. Was that last week? It was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. We had an auxiliary fair 2 weeks ago for specifically bus drivers, custodians, and food service. This was for our teachers and other positions in the district. So the event was held at the Duncanville High School, and HR team did an awesome job. They had 244 registered for the teacher and instructional job fair. 4 people were provided letters of intent at the event, and so we are still interviewing and following up. So we're getting ready to start our school year and to identify potential candidates for Duncanville even now as we get ready to build for next school year. On the auxiliary fair, we had 74 potential candidates that registered. So that's a really good turnout, a really good number. We're pleased with the response we got. People were definitely paying attention to the marketing and the social media we've been doing, and thank you, board, for allowing me to be able to move forward to get the word out. So we're going to continue to move with that as we work through the summer months. The next item I have is the Jrotc musical. One of our winter storms forced the theater department to postpone its original date, but the students took the stage this weekend, and it was a hit with fans and with families. It was Friday and Saturday. The musical theater performance had 3 shows between Friday and Saturday. A great attendance at each one of the shows. It's obvious that our families, they've missed coming in person because most events we have now, it's a really packed house. And so, it's always a great opportunity to get our students to perform in front of their parents and in front of the community. So we're really proud of them. And many of these students also serve in our choir program as well. And the last item that I have for you all this evening is graduation, right around the corner, May 19th, 8 o'clock. At Globe Life Field. And so we're looking forward to graduating students. You got to keep in mind, many of the students that are graduating, they've been out of a school building and out of having regular relational connection with adults and educators and teachers for a year to 2 years. And so, transitioning back to school from a pandemic, it's an awesome accomplishment for them to meet the requirements, finish strong, and I'm looking forward to graduating. We don't know the number yet. It's a little too early for that. We're trying to get as many graduated as possible, though. So that's right around the corner, and we're excited to be back at Globe Life Field. Those are all the items I have tonight. I'll pass it back over to you, Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We will now move to recognitions, and I will turn the meeting over to Tiara Richards.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. So wanted to start off with our first item for recognitions is donations. I've always said anytime that people are willing to give and give freely to our district, we are gracious and really appreciative of those efforts. And so during Duncanville ISD's Kindness Week, which was actually 2 months ago, we had dozens of clothing drives, canned food drives conducted at many of our campuses. And so those items were then donated to the Panther Pantry. And so our kids are collecting and giving back to our own families and students. And so that's just a beautiful thing to see our students learn about the importance of giving. And so we are gracious and just appreciate those donations that have come in. All right, and so I'll continue on to our next set of recognitions, which is our Spirit of a Champion honorees. It's very special to do this specific award because we've not had a Spirit of a Champion honoree for the last 2 years. And so since we've started doing Spirit of a Champion here in the district back in 2006, we haven't had a lull like that. But we had to take a step back with COVID and everything going on. So today we have 3 honorees who are being awarded with the Spirit of a Champion. They've already been surprised at their respective offices, so they know about this, and they'll be celebrated. They were celebrated that day. They're celebrated today, and there are at least 2 or 3 more opportunities where we're going to continue to celebrate them. And just to give you a little background on Spirit of a Champion, this is a top award in the district. This is that honor where you're showing district pride. You're showing that connectedness to our community. You're showing that dedication that really impacts the lives of students on a consistent basis. And the committee that selects our Spirit of a Champion honorees is a committee of our former District Teachers of the Year. So these are people who know about our school district and know what it means to really give back to our kids. And so that committee has a really tough job every year, but this year in particular, when Dr. Smith went around and recognized all of our honorees, he mentioned that we had more nominations than we have ever had for this award. We had more than 60 nominations, and we selected 3. That was a very tough choice that committee had, but you'll see when you hear the honorees why these individuals were selected. So I'll call all 3 of them up. First up, we have Ms. Tamara Thompson, who's the principal at Brandenburg Intermediate School. We also have Mr. Alec Hawkins, the Duncanville ISD Head Athletic Trainer. And last but not least, Ms. Andrea Fields, our Chief of Staff. And there aren't words that can really express what these three individuals do and how they impact the district, but I'm going to offer just a few of them. So I'll start with Ms. Thompson. Ms. Thompson is a campus leader, is so much more than a campus leader. She is a district leader. She steps up and she supports everyone in the district. She's that person that other leaders go to ask for support and help. Whenever they need some guidance, a way to address an issue, a way to serve a family, she's done it most likely, and if she hasn't, she has a really great instinct on what to do. Ms. Thompson is one of those leaders who just really impacts the lives of everyone. She is a Duncanville grad. She is pride through and through. When it comes time to go and support some kids, when those basketball boys down at state, she'd be on that bus down there with them, because that is just how she travels and how she works. She has pride in everyone in this district. You don't have to be a student in her school. If you're Duncanville, she's yours. And so that's just the sort of level of love and commitment she has for Duncanville, and just a little sampling of why she was selected as the Spirit of a Champion Award winner. I'll continue on with Mr. Alec Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins is one of those people who you always see him everywhere, right? And you know why? Because he is everywhere. He shows up where he's needed, and he's there first in the morning, last at night. When those kids need help getting additional treatments, he'll open up the trainer's office on the weekend. He'll open it up after hours. He knows what that need is. And at the same time, he has a family he's caring for too. And it's a district family. We joke around that he's from Louisiana, but he really is Duncanville. We know you love Louisiana, but he loves Duncanville quite a bit too. And he's committed here. He loves it here. And he really just puts his all into this community and our kids and our families. And so, Mr. Hawkins, just amazing, amazing work you do here in the district. And again, that's just a little bit. If you look at the sports training program at the high school, he's really reignited that. Future Fellowship of Christian Athletes, he's reignited those programs. So when it's about giving back to kids, he gives directly to kids on a daily basis. And Miss Andrea Fields. Miss Fields is passion. She is passion for people. She loves individuals, and she's that person that any person in this district knows they can go to and get guidance and direction. And you don't have to go to her. She'll come to you. She sees you walking and she will she will say hi, she will check in with you. She is that pulse point of knowing how things are going in our district. She's that. And she's been that from the beginning. It's something about her way of connecting with individuals that is just so unique. You can't teach that. That's ingrained in an individual. It's who you are. And people recognize it and see it. And I'm telling you what she's going to say, and she always says is, it's not for me, it's for everyone else. And it is. It's because that's how you treat everyone else. But we had to take a moment to stop and recognize you for all that you do for Duncanville. And you also, Ms. Thompson, and everything that you do and give, and Mr. Hawkins. So I'm just proud and honored to recognize our Spirit of a Champion honorees. And again, we'll continue to recognize you. But let's give them a big round of applause. And I will say that no one gets anything accomplished alone. Dr. Smith, you say that to us all the time. No one does it by themselves. Each of you have family here in the audience, staff members, people who do this, who support you and help build you up so you can do what you need to do here. I'd ask those individuals to please stand too.
Let me just add that Mr. Hawkins does not just take care of students. I was a staff at Duncanville, and I had the privilege of being serviced by Mr. Hawkins, so he takes care of staff too.
Wonderful. All right, so up next, we have our basketball players. So I would ask our athletes to come forward. So our 2022 state championship UIL 6A basketball champions, please come forward. I'm not going to take a lot of your time with this because I think the person you really want to hear from is Coach Peavy. So let me step out of the way and let Coach Peavy say a few words to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Smith, board members. Got a special group of young men in front of you. I've heard this a lot since we've won it again. We're starting to make it look easy. Is it easy, guys? No. Gotta assure you that nothing about what we do is easy, but these young men, these are the right guys for the job. I told Tara, it sounded like a broken record, but that's because of consistency, and it starts from the top. We're consistent because our support from you is very consistent, from our leadership on our campus. Mr. McDonald and his staff is very consistent with their support, with Mr. Weaver and everybody in the athletic department. And these guys are very consistent on how they handle their business in the classroom, in those hallways in our community, and on the basketball court, of course. Want to thank y'all for allowing us to do what we do. Everybody knows we won a state championship again, but in a couple of polls, we also finished #1 in the country. Max Preps. Thank you. Max Preps and Fab 50, we finished #1 in the country, and I think ESPN, we finished #2 to a team that we beat, but that is what it is. But that doesn't happen if y'all don't allow us to do what we've done as far as the traveling that we have to do. We went to Phoenix this year to play against the team that finished #1. We beat them in Hoop Hall West. We went to Utah. We got to go, where else did we go? Texarkana. Next year, we've got some more trips planned as well, if you allow us to go. But I want to thank all of you for your support, and we'll try to keep this thing going. Thank you.
And Coach Peavy says they're running out of space on the wall, but we do have an acrylic plaque, Mr. Weaver, that we are presenting to you. And the headline's not exactly right, but it's what the Dallas Morning News printed. But we're celebrating our team for, again, 4-time state championship award winners. Congratulations to our basketball team. And our athletes, the seniors here have a few items just for the board they wanted to bring forward. Gentlemen, lady, we have a gift for you guys.
Hadn't lost a playoff game in 4 years. Not bad. Making it look easy. Took me 25 years to win 3.
Well, you got this thing started, Phil. We know it, and we're definitely not doing this without you.
Yeah, we're proud of y'all.
Thank
God almighty, I'm proud of y'all.
We're very proud. I mean, y'all make it look easy, but we know it takes a lot of discipline and hard work, and you got to have your mind straight. And so we also know that you all are athletes and academic, astute in the classroom. So y'all have the perfect packages. And so you are the future leaders, so go and do great things. We're just so proud of y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
y'all have everything. You have the academics and the athleticism.
Well, for the academics, we got to give a special shout out to Ms. Butts.
Yes, oh yes. Yes. Yeah, she is amazing as well.
And let us not overlook the young lady. Thank you so much. We see the young lady in the group. We see you. Thank you.
First class off and on the court, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now you can go.
Well, thank you for keeping the City of Champions alive and well. Good luck to each of you.
They might make it look easy, but.
All right, so as our basketball team, our state championship athletes are going back to their seat, I would like to call up and start on our Made with Pride in Duncanville honorees. So this will be the last month for the school year. This school year that we'll be doing Made with Pride. We'll pick it up next year. And our first Made with Pride honoree is our Made with Pride Staff Member of the Month, Ms. Jada Ross. So Ms. Ross is a teacher specialist at Central Elementary School. For those of you who don't know, teacher specialists are basically our support and basically our teachers for our teachers, our support and development with our teaching staff. But as you'll see, Ms. Ross does so much more than that. She does support the teachers, but she's also that person who other peers in the district will turn to, who they will reach out to. She can step into a classroom and provide support there. She can give guidance to a teacher with a lesson plan, but she's always creative. She's coming up with new things that we may not think of, things that teachers in the classroom may not realize is an option. And so, Ms. Ross, you are an outstanding teacher specialist. You really set the goal and the bar really high for what it means to be a leader in the district in that capacity. And so I want to congratulate you as our Made with Pride in Duncanville Staff Member of the Month, Ms. Jada Ross. Thank you. All right, and up next, we have our Made with Pride in Duncanville Teacher of the Month, Mr. Jack Zeller. Should have known you'd come from a all the band people do. All right, so Mr. Zeller is a band teacher at the high school. He was actually nominated by a choir teacher, Mr. Devin Johnson. He is the definition of excellence, is what was written in his nomination. Just excellence in his teaching, in his love of his career, and his love for students, and the band as a whole. Mr. Zeller is that guy you'll see at the football games on the big tall stand, like leading the band. I'm telling you, it's amazing watching him lead these kids through that game. Our band is so connected to what's happening on the field, and Mr. Zeller is a huge part of that. He's directing them, he's guiding them, and that support matters. That support is felt on the field, it's felt in the stands, and it makes a huge difference in what happens out there. But even more than that, these kids are learning skills that will set them up for life. And you are such a big part of that in guiding them through those skills and those abilities and those the things that they need to be successful moving forward outside of high school, outside of school, period, but just in life. And so I just want to congratulate you and recognize you as our Made with Pride in Duncanville Teacher of the Month, Mr. Jack Zeller. All right, last but not least, we had some great recognitions today, so we're going to cap it off with our Made with Pride in Duncanville Student of the Month, Miss Celeste Long. Miss Celeste Long is a band student at the high school, but much more than that. She is involved in multiple high-achieving activities. She's in the National Honor Society. She's an 11th grader who is already excelling and doing so well. You've been a bassoonist in the district now since 6th grade, correct? And so she has been excelling on that instrument and really shining in the band. But not only that, she's one of those people who I've learned that whenever she reaches out to others, she is offering them the sort of support that she knows they need. She is empathetic. She is kind. She is really giving of her time. She's that person that other kids in the school turn to when they know they need someone to really hear them and listen. And it's impressive to see and hear that from other high school age students, knowing that they know that person who will provide that. And Celeste, that's who you've been for so many other students. And what some of you may know, and I hate doing this because this is your moment, but I do want to say this. Her brother is Sharif Long, who has been honored previously here in the district repeatedly. So the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Long, y'all are doing something incredibly right. So this is your moment, but I know it's also you being the kind person you are would want to shine that with your parents too and talk about how wonderful they are. And so I want to congratulate you, Celeste, for being our Made with Pride in Duncanville Student of the Month. Congratulations. Thank you. And now we have a video that shines just a little bit more of a light on who these individuals are for our Made with Pride honorees. Thank you.
Duncanville ISD congratulates the following student, staff member, and teacher who are made with pride in Duncanville.
My name is Celeste Long. I'm a bassoonist at Duncanville High School. I'm also in the color guard in Youth and Government and NHS. I really challenge myself to always be better, and I also really like helping people. It just makes people feel more comfortable and appreciated because a lot of people don't have that type of support system. So I always try to be like that because I grew up in a home where my parents always supported me and always had like a good support group, so I always want that for somebody else. It always challenges me, but like I just keep pushing through with it, and at the end I really like it. And I always want the best for everybody, so that they feel comfortable in every situation that they're in.
I'm a teacher specialist here, so typically we work with the teachers to just initiate and perpetuate student success, but we also work with the students so that the students know that success is in them. To be very honest, the reason why I like it here in Duncanville is because I can relate to these kids. I see myself in these students, so when I say I show up for lesson planning meetings, I show up for class sessions, I walk into class and engage with whatever the lesson is for that day, and I just make myself a part of the campus. And I think kids decide at this stage of the game if school is something that they can do. And so if I have my hand just in a little bit of that development during their elementary years, that is why I come in and do what I do every day.
My philosophy/goal for my kids is that when they leave the band hall, regardless of whether they'll do band in the future or music in the future, they get two things. They get an appreciation for music, a love for any music that they decide to go into, whether it be what they listen to every day or whether they just want to play. And then the biggest thing is that when they leave our band hall, they're self-sufficient adults. They can take a problem through the things they've done in band and go, okay, I know that practice makes perfect. I know that I need to work as a team. I need all of these things that I've got from my band class that I can apply to real life. And that when they leave our band hall, they can be self-sufficient adults. They can just excel in anything they decide to do. Our kids do things that kids around the state just, I don't think, tend to do. They work through all of their problems, and they have a lot of things that they have to work through in life. And our kids, I like to say the word gritty. Our kids have so much grit. Whenever there's a problem they face, they just attack it, and they go, and they go, and they go. And after that, I realized if I can make half the impact on someone else's life that band gave to me through that process, then I'd be doing a world of good.
These honorees truly are made with pride in Duncanville.
Thank you, Mrs. Richard. Love those presentations. Love all the smiles. Thank you. We will now move to communications from citizens to discuss pending agenda items before the board. We do not have any communications from the citizens regarding a pending agenda item. We will now move to consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Phil McNeely moved and Jackie Colton second the consent agenda to be approved. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passed 5-0. We now move to the action agenda by item A, Board of Trustees Education Hours. I, Janet Veracruz, will be presenting this. As Board Vice President, I am required to announce the name of each board member who has completed, exceeded, or is deficient in meeting the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Janice Savage Martin exceeded the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Janet Veracruz exceeded the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Jacqueline Colton exceeded the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Cassandra Phillips exceeded the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Carla Fahey exceeded the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Phil McNeely exceeded the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Dr. Lasagna Ivory exceeded the required continuing education, CEC, hours. Do I have a motion to approve the Board Trustees' education hours?
So moved.
Second.
Carla Fahey moved and Phil McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passed 5-0. We will now move to action item B, awarding of a depository contract. The presenter, Dr. Ed Bigby.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. If you remember last year at this time, we tried to do this and we didn't get any proposals from any of the banks. We sent it out again this year. We sent notification to every bank that has any type of a bank in the district. That included BBVA, Chase, Comerica, First Convenience, Frost, Inwood, Prosperity, and Wells Fargo. We had one proposal returned, and that was from Chase, who is our current depository. If you'd like, we'll read all 100 pages of the RFP, but just to make it short, it's basically the same thing they'd offered us for the last 4 years. They went up on a couple of things and went down on a couple of things, so it's pretty well the same thing. They said they want to keep our business, and we'd like for you to award the depository contract to them for 22 through 24, and then there's an opportunity to extend that for 3 years after that, if you so choose. But I'd ask you to approve the Chase as the depository.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the depository contract be awarded to J.P. Morgan Chase for the years 2022-2024?
So moved.
Second.
Jackie Colton moved and Phil McNeely seconded the motion. Are there any questions, comments, or discussions? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to information and discussion items. The first item is budget development, timeline, and budget overview for 2022 and 2023. The presenter is Dr. Ed Bigby.
Thank you, Madam. Yep, thank you, Madam Vice President. Not a problem. Dr. Bigby, you can make your way on up if you'd like. But a couple things to kind of get us started here. One, Board, I want to thank you for the feedback that you gave us at our last budget workshop. What our goal was, our team took that information and we went to work, and we hope that we have done what you've asked us to do, which is to identify some different scenarios and models and help you see the impact. And as we start, each budget year, we're always focused on making sure that our budget is aligned with our district needs and with our strategic plan. We also have a goal to be more competitive from a compensation standpoint. We want to be healthy with our fund balance, and we want to look at the future as well. It's always pretty difficult to try to meet all of those areas, especially in the times that we are in now. But that has remained our focus as we go through this process. Tonight, you're going to hear follow-up from all the data, again, that you ask us to provide for you. Have each member who's responsible for an area, they'll be getting up, speaking to you. You can go ahead and advance the slide, please. Again, each year, we define what we do by looking at our strategic plan, and it's really just an effort to show, we're not operating just reaching for stars or just reaching for different things. There's a focus that really drives the planning of what we need in our district and how we're going to execute to provide and support that need through our financial means. As we go through the presentations here, there are some positive trending data. I call it positive trending data that I think is important for us to think about as we look at the scenarios. These are things that, potentially could occur. It is very hard to predict the future. We've talked about that. None of us would have predicted COVID, but it happened. So anything can happen, but we have to be able to plan and move forward and make our decisions. So there's some what I call positive trending data, and you can go ahead and advance that slide, please. But there's some positive trending data that I think is really good to just keep in mind as we go through these slides. And one is the potential year-end remaining funds that could go into the fund balance. Let me talk about what that means real quickly. I am going to ask Dr. Bigby to really go a little deeper, a little further in his presentation, but basically at the end of each year, there's always dollars that were not utilized just because there were positions that were left vacant at the end of the year and for a number of other reasons that just are natural routine in a school district. Well, those funds typically will roll over into the fund balance. And so as we go through each year over the next couple of years or so, that's likely to occur for us. So that's something to think about as something that could be a positive trending data point for us to consider to help kind of ease the pain, if you will, as we get through these next couple of years. Also, you know, I really do believe, and I'm very hopeful, that our attendance will continue to trickle up. We presented to you over the last couple of months, those numbers are starting to tick up. It is all of our hope that over the next couple of years, we'll get back to normal. And we'll get back to that percentage that we know is going to drive some revenue for our district. Legislative relief. We've already seen one come together for us, I guess 3 weeks or so thereabout. The governor came out with his relief package, if you will. Dr. Bigby presented at a budget workshop. That was about $1.6+ million for Duncanville ISD. So I think the state clearly understands the challenges that districts are dealing with, and that was one step, and there may be additional steps that we may see down the line. And then just efficiency in how we operate our staffing. That's always a key plan for us, and I'll be looking at a lot of different nuances over the next couple of years as we work our way through to make sure that we are lean and that we are still able to provide the services and a premium service for our district with the staff that we have. So those are just some positive trends to keep in mind for you to think about as we go through the presentation. Next slide, and then I'm going to pass the baton to you, Dr. Bigby, and you can take us from there. Obviously, we're not making a decision tonight. Our budget is not approved until June, but it is so critical for us to continue to get feedback. Your feedback is valuable and important. Obviously, the board, this is the board, you own the budget process, and so we want to get it right. We want to do what it is you want us to do, and so your feedback is important. Tonight, the presentation assumes the following: that the beginning teacher salary will increase from 56 to 57. Right? These are assumptions for you to think about. The other assumption is that current teachers will receive a raise of either 4.9%, and everyone else will receive, all other employee groups will receive 3% of the midpoint, or that teachers would receive 6.6% increase, and everyone else would receive a 4%. Either scenario, teachers would receive or feel a greater increase than any other employee category in the district. All other employees, of course, you see that 3%, and any applicable adjustments. You were presented with the compensation plan. The compensation plan and the budget are tied together, and so whichever budget you choose to adopt, you're also adopting the compensation plan to support that budget. So those are just some assumptions to keep in mind for you as we go through the process. Now, what I think you're really wanting to hear is what Dr. Bigby is going to take the baton and lead us on, and that's really working through these scenarios so you can see what the real impact is. So I'll pass it over to Dr. Bigby.
Hello again. Next slide, please. I'm going to start by talking about Model 2. If you remember the TASB presentation, there were two models. Model 1, which was a $56,000 teacher starting salary, and Model 2, which is $57,000. We're starting backwards, so we're going to start with 2 and walk you through this, and don't let me get you tangled up. If I lose you somewhere, please stop me, because I can tangle anybody up. Scenario A, if we went with Model 2, the beginning teacher would go to $57,000. If there was no retention stipend, which we've done over the past few years, it'd cost the district somewhere around $6 million. If you chose to combine a retention stipend with that, if you chose a $1,500 one, it would cost about $8 million. If you chose a $2,500 one, it would cost about $10 million.
How much does it cost more if we are looking at 2,500? We gave that last year. What would 3,000 be? No, I mean, you don't have to do it now. I'm just.
5.7 million. On top, the 3,000, the 2,500 or 3,000 itself would cost that much on top of the 6. That's if we've still got 1,900 employees.
Well, I'm for the 3,000.
Excuse me?
I'm for 3,000. 3,500 maybe. But I'll settle for 3.
Thank you, Dr. Beebe.
Okay.
Continue. Go. Thank you.
Just listening to the presentation.
Thank you,
Next
Dr.
slide,
Beebe.
please.
If you want feedback, I'll give you some.
Thank
This
you,
is the impact.
Thank you. We hear and we understand your concerns. Dr. Beebe.
Next slide shows what kind of impact would take place if you just went with Plan 2 with no incentives, the $6 million. We'd recommend you take $3 million of that from fund balance and $3 million from ESSER. That would drop our projected fund balance to $52 million, 41% of budget in about 4.3 months. And the $3 million would be only for the next 2 years is the only time we would have those ESSER funds. And that would be difficult to maintain since we've dropped those ESSER funds off. Okay, next slide. Some assumptions so that we'll all be on the same page. Year-end remaining funds will not add or reduce fund balance. That's the assumptions we use to put these numbers together. Enrollment remain fairly consistent for the next year. Attendance will not drastically fluctuate up or down. Legislative action not have a negative impact on the budget. Of course, theoretically, they're not scheduled to be back the whole legislature till January, but things can happen. Cost of goods and services will not dramatically increase, and retention stipend would be given annually. So the numbers I'm going to give you, we've added that in for each of the next 3 years, just so you'll have that information. Okay, next slide. Okay, Plan 2. Once again, beginning teacher salary 57. The 1,500 be 8 million total. 2,500 be 10 million total. You can see that the cost, how that'd be deducted, would take half of it from fund balance and half of it from the ESSER funds in the first year. It would reduce our fund balance to about $51 million and $4 million from ESSER. If we did the 1,500, it reduced fund balance to $50 million and $5 million would come from ESSER if we did this for the first year. Okay, next slide. Kind of puts it down and try to parlay that for the 3 years. This is just with no incentive stipends. 22-23 would take $3 million out of fund balance, $3 million out of ESSER, a total of $6 million to fund it. I drop fund balance to $52 million, and once again, we'd use $3 million out of ESSER. 23-24, the same scenario, $6 million total cost. Fund balance would be down to 49. 24-25, where we no longer have ESSER funds, the entire $6 million would have to come out of fund balance, and that would drop the fund balance to $43 million. Okay, next slide. If you chose to do Plan 2 and a $1,500 stipend, you can see the numbers there. It's $4 million each from fund balance and ESSER for the first 2 years. Fund balance at the end of the second year would be down to 47. The third year, where there's no ESSER funds, The 8 million would come from fund balance, and that would drop the fund balance to 39 million. Okay, next slide. Same scenario, only $2,500 stipend each year, $5 million each from fund balance and ESSER for the first 2 years.
Excuse me, Dr. Bigby.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a question on the floor.
You got
Jackie
it.
Colton.
Thank you, Dr. Bixby. So this takes into consideration compression?
Takes into consideration what, I'm sorry?
Compression. If we're...
Tax rate compression?
Well, no, sir. If we're increasing the beginning teacher salary, how does that figure in, or will that not have an impact at all? Will you reconsider, the salaries of the other staff who might be impacted by bringing the first-year teachers on at a level that's...
Yeah, those adjustments are all included in this total.
Okay. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, because when you do that, like you said, it does compress it, so those are all included in that total
Yes,
cost.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Don't leave you behind. This one is with the $2,500 stipend each year. You can see the first 2 years, half out of fund balance, half out of the ESSER funds. $45 million fund balance at the end of the second year. Third year out, it's $10 million from fund balance. That would leave the fund balance at about $35 million.
Is that assuming we don't put anything else in the fund balance
Yes.
at the end of the year?
Yeah, just saying that we're going to be flat at the end of the year.
We don't know that we wouldn't have enough to put more in, right?
No, we don't, but we don't know we'll have less either. Last year,
This is all assumptions.
it's an assumption that it stays flat.
Okay.
Because last year, we took money out of fund balance, and we'll do that again this year. Okay, next slide. This puts it all on one sheet. I won't spend a lot of time explaining everything, except I want to explain the spendable part of fund balance. As you know, our fiscal year ends in June. The state's fiscal year ends in the end of August. So during the months of June, July, and August, we have to fund about $10 million a year is what we call cash flow, without any revenue from any source. Our tax monies all come in by February, and the state doesn't really pick up money again until September. So we need about $30 million just to pay the bills through the summer. So that's why I put this together, to just show how much really is there after we take care of cash flow. We like to think of fund balance as a savings account, and it's not.
No.
It's there for emergencies, and it's also for cash flow. You probably read the paper a couple of years ago where one of our neighbors had a cash flow problem.
Yes.
And in order to keep us out of that, it's about $30 million. Now, in September, we picked that money back up from the state, but we're going to have to spend it again in June. So just to make payroll and pay our bills through the summer, we need at least $30 million in fund balance. So even though $55 million looks like a lot, if you take the $30 million out, then that's $25 million that's not needed for just pure cash flow. Is that clear as mud? Did I lose you? It's just like if you didn't work for 3 months at home, you would have to have money put away to pay your bills for those 3 months. And that's what part of fund balance is.
Is that because of the way we do our end our year?
Fiscal year, it's part of it, but because we do end it there, we actually picked up 3 months more fund balance because we had that one short year when you transformed over. So that fund balance piece is carried over into the fiscal year. So it's a wash. Everybody has some of that. The wealthier districts don't, because they get basically all of their money from tax money. So they get it all in January and February. But most districts like us that receive state funding also are in the same situation. They have to take care of cash flow. So that's a big piece of it. We don't talk about it a whole lot because we've always had enough to cover that. But as we start talking about the possibility of spending fund balance, then I think it behooves at least me and Dr. Smith to make sure that you understand that it's not just a savings account, it's also a cash flow account. So we filtered that into this, and Model 2, right now we're projecting we'll end this year with $55 million. If you take that $30 million out for cash flow, and then we take the $3 million off that would cost us for Plan 2, just for the salary increase, then another $3 million, and then that puts the spendable fund balance down to $22 million. I know that's a good jump from 55, but it's the actual need that the district has. If you want to keep coming down, if you add that $1,500 stipend, then it brings that spendable down to $21 million. If you add the $2,500, then it brings it down to $20 million. This is all in the first year. When you move to the second year, it starts compounding. We begin with $52 million for just Model 2. Take the 30 and then the 3 away, then it leaves 19. With the Model 2 with the 1,500, take the 30 and the 4 million away, that leaves 17. As you can see, if you did the 2,500, then it leaves 15 million spendable at the end of the second year. Into the third year, when there's no longer ESSER funds, you can see we'd begin the top one at 49, take the 30 off, and then the 6 is what it would cost to fund the whole thing. Then that leaves us at 13 million. If you pull down to the 1,500 one, then it leaves us with 9 million, and the 2,500, then at the end of the third year, we're looking at $5 million spendable fund balance, and I would tell you that's not a good situation to be in. Any questions there? I know there's a tremendous amount of numbers on there, but I just think it behooves us to make sure we look at what that cash flow situation is, because I don't want to go down to a bank and try to borrow money to pay payroll and stuff.
I have a question.
Jackie Colton.
So what does our financial criteria call for?
It calls for 3 months, which would be $30 million, which would put us at zero if we spend it all for our cash flow.
Yes, sir.
The state doesn't, well, that's what the state recommends. TASBO, which is the business officials, recommend 4.5 months at least, because they understand cash flow. Our legislature doesn't understand the cash flow part of fund balance, because they keep trying to take all the fund balance away. And they look at it as a savings account. And they compare it to the rainy day fund at the governor's level, where he's got $11 billion. Well, he doesn't have a cash flow problem. That's all within the budget. His money is funding it. That is a savings account. But fund balance in a school district's not just fund balance or savings. It's also a cash flow. And once again, I think we need to discuss that as we talk about spending. As long as we weren't spending fund balance and we were gaining on it, then it was immaterial. But as we get down to a point where we start talking about the need to spend some fund balance, then it behooves us to know exactly where we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but passing this year's budget doesn't lock us in for 2 years down the road, right?
Well, the salaries. It doesn't.
Well, I know the salary, but I mean, if we looked at the stipend, we looked at what position we'll be in 3 years. I'm just saying, this is not...
No. You don't, once you decide to do something, you don't have to do it again the next year.
That's what I'm saying.
With the stipends. I can give you those numbers if you want them.
I don't remember.
Well, the 15 would be 17 million if you chose for only 1 year, and you'd have 9 at the end of the 3 years if you chose to not do the stipend for the third year.
And that's something we'll have to look at, because a lot of the stipend is paid by these ESSER funds, and we're not going to have them at the end of the third year. So that's something you really have to look at. I'm not talking about doing it all, saying we're stuck in stone, everything's in stone. We can look at everything every year.
Sure. That's certainly your prerogative. I just wanted to paint you a picture of, if you chose to do this, what it would look like.
I get it, but we're not set in stone.
All these are iffies.
because I appreciate the 3-year projection, but I realize we may not decide to do stipends the next year or the next. And so, I mean, all this is iffy, but I appreciate you doing that for us.
But the stipends are a small piece of this. It certainly can save it by not putting it in there. The salary increase is the big dollars.
Right.
Yes, it is. It's a commitment.
And it's going to stay with us.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yes.
I'm not trying to argue one way or another. I'm just trying to present you with the numbers.
No, and we just want to be good stewards of what we're doing with this funds.
The next few slides, no more questions here. We'll move to it. We threw some together right quick for Model 1. We didn't know what kind of way the board might be leaning, but to look at it, basically, Model 1 costs $1 million less than Model 2 for the salary increase. So you can project that out. We'd save $500,000 of each from SRN from fund balance for the first year if you chose Model 1 just for the pay increase. So fund balance would be $52,500 at the end of the first year. And you can see this is just with a salary increase with the $5,600 starting teacher pay. Then fund balance will be around $45 million at the end of the third year. Okay, next slide. This is with a $1,500 stipend for the first year. You can see 3.5 million would come out of the fund balance and ESSER for a total of $7 million, and fund balance will be at 51.5 if in fact you chose to move the $1,500 stipend for the next 2 years. You can see what it would do to fund balance. Keep in mind that $30 million is still there as far as cash flow needs. Okay, next slide. And this is the $5,600 of Model 1 with the $2,500 stipend. And once again, I'm not asking you to commit to anything for any year, but you need to have that information.
Tell me again, the $2,500 on this one is, and the raises are how much?
On that one with the first one, with just the raise?
No. On the one with the $2,500 stipend.
With the $5,600 starting pay?
You said a while ago, what was $5 million for this and $5 million for that, or 500,000 more? How much does the stipend cost us?
You go to page 12 on the presentation, please, in the back.
Yeah, the stipend itself is about $2 million for one and $4 million for the 2,500 one. The 500 less I was talking about is if you went to Model 1, then there's $500,000 less that would be spent to do the salary increase than if you went with Model 2. You'd split $500,000 from ESSER and from fund balance because there's about $1 million difference in those two salary plans.
And so 500 more than that, 3,000 would be what? Another 500,000? I know you told me, but that was 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I've slept since then too. It would be, instead of the $4 million, it'd be pushing $5 million for the $3,000 stipend.
Okay, I'd like to be pushing that $5 million, but.
Understand. I just want to give you the numbers. You guys can
You did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, I think we covered those. Unknowns, you've talked about. I was giving the information as if nothing changed. Will there be any money going into fund balance at the end of the year? There won't this year. One, we talked about $4 million came out of fund balance to finish the Teacher Learning Center, which you'd approved 2 years ago. And then even with the hold harmless, we're still going to be somewhere between $3 and $4 million short revenue-wise. So hopefully we get back on track to where we can put some money back in fund balance. Special programs make a difference. If we get a large increase in special education students, let's say, the state doesn't come anywhere near funding enough to take care of that, so there's some cost associated with that. They are studying those weights, but they've been studying them since I went into the school business, and they haven't changed them yet, so I don't hold a lot of hope out that they'll do that. Significant influx in attendance, as Dr. Smith said, if we can get back to 93, we're going to be excited. 93%. Will there be legislative action? There'll be some that's going to impact us one way or another. They've almost helped us broke. And will the economy stabilize? Who knows that too? Those are all unknowns. Everybody's costs are really going up, and it's no different for school districts. And I think that may be the end of mine. I covered a tremendous amount of stuff.
You did, and it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Dr. Smith, do you have something to add?
Yeah, just another, something to think about for the board. In just a second here, Dr. Jordan's going to come up and talk about the ESSER funds. And yes, this is a really important piece. The dollar amount hasn't changed, but depending upon which direction you, as a board, direct us to go, it could indeed impact the ESSER fund piece. So this is, I think, something y'all might want to know, that we've allocated funds through our ESSER dollars to support some of the needs that we have. Instructional needs, trying to deal with the learning loss, all of that you're going to hear. You all could choose to use money that's been previously allocated to support, whether it's 25 or 3,000, wherever direction. Just know that that is an option. Now, it would mean that we're taking from, let's just say, the area where we focused on addressing the learning loss. Well, we've allocated X amount of dollars to support that this summer and all the things that we're doing to catch our students up. Well, if it is an option to take some dollars from that to support what you want to do on the salary side. So I'm saying just know that that's an option that you have, and also just know that, the impact of it. So if you choose to go on that route, then you're comfortable knowing the impact, and then the team and I can get together and figure out how to make it work. So I wanted to say that.
I feel like these ESSER funds are just, and we're using, I'm not saying they're not for that, but I still don't think we can spend our money on anything more important than our teachers. That's just the way I feel. I mean, we can talk about learning loss and all this stuff, but spending it on the teachers makes a lot of deal. I'm not going to get scared off by that. I want to spend it on the teachers. That's just how I feel.
Thank you.
Ms. Colton, you had
Thank you.
something? Ms. Colton.
Trustee Jackie Colton and Dr. Ara.
Okay. Dr. Bixby, thank you very much for your presentation. I'm just wondering, with fuel and everything going up and, equipment, supplies, materials, how are those increased costs, due to inflation, addressed in the budget?
Well, they're not. It's just flat at this moment, and we'll just have to absorb those. We've done that some other times, but there's nothing built in to cover inflation right now. Of course, we haven't presented you a budget in June yet, but in our planning stage, we haven't factored any of that. We've assumed everything's going to stay fairly flat, which we know it won't. Hopefully, it'll come back down, but not going to hold our breath.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Ivey?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I know we are all in agreement on wanting to improve the salaries of teachers, but I think we have to really keep in mind that if we give teachers raises and we remove support and we remove programs that are in place to close that learning gap, that raise won't mean anything if they're in a classroom where, let me finish. If they're in the classroom teaching teachers, they have a raise. We are all in agreement on increasing them financially. I just think it's important that we remember that these other things that were allocated to also help student learning, we are for teachers and their salaries, and we appreciate all the work that they've done. But we have to keep in mind when we make these decisions about relocating or transferring the ESSER funds that plans have been put in place for student learning. And they're not one or the other, they go together. So I just wanted to say that to the board, that it's really imperative that we keep that in mind, that where we've put time and energy for learning support, we are not talking one or the other. We are talking, they go together.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I'll be here the rest of the presentation.
Is this the ROTC?
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to provide you an ESSER update in regards to overcoming the COVID climb. Next slide. So Duncanville ISD has received the following ESSER funds. ESSER 1, we've received approximately $2.7 million, and Dr. Smith stated this earlier, we have actually utilized all of our ESSER 1 funds, so those funds have been utilized completely. Our ESSER 2 funds, we have approximately $11 million, and those funds have not been utilized, but they've been allocated. And then our ESSER 3 funds, we have approximately $24.9 million. Those funds have not been utilized, but they have been allocated. And I will share with you in just a moment just the different categories of where those funds have been allocated. Next slide. So first, let's look at our ESSER 1 and our ESSER 3 funds. A reminder, ESSER 1 funds have been 100% utilized. We have approximately $27 million where we are focused on these 4 areas: learning recovery and acceleration, that's our summer programming, that's our intervention support, that's looking at instructional resources and materials to help ensure that our students have quality, equity, and access. Then we have approximately 21% in healthy students, healthy schools. That's through our SEL. We talked a few months ago about how important it is to capture our students' hearts and take care of the whole child. And then we have 8% in the equitable access to learning and enrichment. That's making sure our students have everything that they need. And then 47% of our funds have either through ESSER 1 or ESSER 3 allocation been invested in talent investment. That's our stipends, that's the one-time payment. Personnel would fall in that category. Next slide. So then we move into ESSER 2. We have been talking about our ESSER funds out of order. We spent a lot of time on ESSER 3 first because it was given to the district, allocated to us first. But now we have ESSER 2 funds that we have to look at. The purpose of ESSER 2 funds is to help districts safely reopen schools with a focus on learning loss by, in Duncanville, ensuring that we have lifelong learners, provide enrichment activities, acceleration, recovery, and new experiences. So on our next couple of slides, we're going to review how different stipends, different models impact ESSER. Next slide. So our current funding allocation for our ESSER 2 funds, the approximate $11 million, we have about 50% in talent investment. Again, that's our one-time payment, that's stipends, that's any strategic school personnel. And right now, there's $4 million that's on hold, waiting for us to have a decision for budget. And then we have 12% in our resources and support. Again, that's SEL, restorative practices. 25% earmarked in high-quality instruction. That's making sure we have research-based instructional materials across the district. Last month, we talked about that job-embedded coaching where teachers are in the classroom and they're saying, please help me. It's easier to go and help them and see them in action with their students versus pulling them off campus and providing a professional development. And then 13% on our Reimagined Summer. We want to make sure that we create summer programs where all students want to come and attend. Next slide. So if we look at Model 1 and then Model 2A, this would be the impact of our ESSER funds. Notice that we did not change. So with Model 1, that's with the beginning teacher having $56,000 starting, and without any stipends being added. Dr. Bigby presented, that's about a $5 million impact on ESSER. We have those funds earmarked, so we would not see those allocations changing. And even with Model 2A, where we're looking at the $6 million, that's $57,000 starting for teachers, and then the zero stipend, we're still okay to keep those allocations the same, because we have earmarked those funds. It's important for me to say here, we have approximately $4 million sitting in ESSER 2 with these models, and then some reserved in ESSER 3. But as we proceed forward, you're going to see that we may shift from ESSER 3 completely to ESSER 2. Next slide. So then we look at our Model 2B. That's where we stated that we could give the $57,000 plus a $1,500 stipend. That would cost approximately $8 million. And even looking at Model 1, where we have the starting pay at $56,000 and a $1,500 stipend, that's $7 million. So either $7 million or $8 million, we have some approximate of how this would look. So we would go to a 72% allocation for talent investment. We would be able to spend 4% on resources and support, 20% on providing high-quality instruction, and then 4% on Reimagined Summer. And of course, this is just allocation, so we can move those around as needed. Next slide, please. And then let's look at Model 2, where we would have a $2,500 stipend with the $57,000 starting pay. So looking at Model 2 with complete ESSER 2 funds, we would use 90%, it's $10 million, out of ESSER 2, and then we would shift to 3% resources, 4% high-quality instruction, and 3% Reimagined Summer. So looking at those 4 slides over time, you can see how we would adjust the allocations based upon where we are with our budget. But we do have those funds earmarked. Next slide. So just as a reminder, 100% of ESSER 1 funds have been utilized, and they were utilized on salary, personnel, providing support. And then ESSER 2 and 3, 100% of the funds have been allocated, but they've not been utilized. So we will adjust as we need to, depending on where we are with the budget. I am happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that you have at this time.
Do I have any questions or comments? Do I have any comments or questions? I have a question for the board, and that is there any direction that you have that you would like to focus efforts on from any of these plans? Do y'all have any feedback to give?
To us, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Well, if it's already allocated, what do you want our feedback from? Y'all just make it and we'll vote on it and go on. We won't have to have workshops. We'll have to see the same slides over and over.
Thank you. The feedback is critical. Carla Fahey?
Yes. How much input did have the teachers had? Have they had any in how they would allocate? I mean, sometimes I hear, well, what did y'all do with that money? I don't see it in my classroom. This is mostly elementary teachers, but do they have input? I know they send their little list to the principal and when they make out their budgets and that sort of thing. But how much impact would a classroom teacher have on the material that we've just seen?
So the impact you may not see directly, but you would see it indirectly. I believe it was last month we talked about the budget managers and how each one of the chiefs serves as a budget manager. So for your question, it would be your chief of schools who would then go and talk to their principals, and then the principals would talk to their teachers, and that would filter back up to our area.
Would the teachers be surveyed, or would be, hey, if you have an idea, let me know? Or, a principal might hear from one teacher or the whole faculty. Is that monitored?
Once we have the finalized where we're going with ESSER, we most definitely can survey the teachers to see how they want to utilize the funds.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions or comments? No? Okay.
She didn't?
She did not. Dr. Ivory?
Oh, yes, I do.
Dr.
So as
Trustee
far as-
Ivory.
As far as our, that's what I thought. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation. So, I know that funds have been allocated to address learning loss, and so I guess the question that I'm asking is, do we anticipate all the funds that have been allocated will be sufficient to address learning loss?
So our students come to us with varying needs, gaps, and deficits, and so I think that's the answer where we would like to say, yes, it is sufficient, but we also know that we're building students for the future, and so we're going to do the best with the funds that we have right now. If we had a magical pot, and we could say no, but we don't have that magical pot, so we will make do with the funds that have been allocated to us.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I figured, we were making best use of the funds we had, but, I guess we could always use more. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
I have a question.
Trustee Ivory?
So as far as the intervention and enrichment supports, is that a category for additional aids in pushing into the classroom to close those learning gaps? What exactly is the intervention and enrichment supports? Is this after school? Is this during the school day? What is that?
It's a mixture of both, and so we're looking at marrying our academic intervention and enrichment supports with our behavior intervention and enrichment support, so it would potentially be additional staffing at the campus level. It will also help us create a comprehensive program, where right now you have campuses who may use a software program at one campus, and a different campus uses a second software program, third and fourth. So we're looking at staffing, we're looking at resources and materials that's research-based, high quality, and then we're also looking at during the school day, Tier 1 instructional time, and then what happens during Tier 3 instructional time. A lot of HB 4545, you hear teachers saying, I barely teach in Tier 1, I don't know how to get that extra time in. This model will help us through additional staffing and resources.
I'd be interested in knowing a little bit more details about just what that's going to look like, because I believe that if we are strategic with those resources and pushing in and making sure that we are using intervention and teachers are seeing it, I think you were mentioning, well, teachers, what would they say? And I know with the big gap that we have in classrooms, the more hands, and I know right now we can barely find substitutes, so I'm not expecting you guys to work miracles. I'm just saying, as far as strategy is concerned, how much of the intervention it takes place during the school day.
We will have that for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then you ask about direction. I'm interested in the direction that keeps the strategy on, that doesn't change, and I'm going to mix up which models, but either one of the ones that doesn't change the Reimagined Summer percentages, everything that's been laid out so far and the staff has been working on and cultivating and putting into practice and having conversations, that's the direction that I'm interested in, that it wouldn't negate what we've been working toward.
Thank you for that feedback. Dr. Smith, you have some feedback?
Yeah, Madam Vice President and board members, I want to make sure we do a good job of explaining the allocation piece, because I don't want that to be misconstrued. So when the state gave us and any school district this money, they required us to tell them where and how we were going to use it.
That's right.
So we wouldn't receive the money if we didn't allocate it somewhere. That was part of the grant. So we had to put it in a pot, understanding that when we got to this day at some point, we could move it around to make adjustments to support a budget that you all wanted, but we had to tell them where we were going to use it, or they wouldn't have. That was just a requirement of the grant.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
Thank you for the direction, though. That helps us to really focus our efforts. Any other particular model that any board member wants us to really focus our efforts and energy on?
I told you what I wanted.
Yep, I got it.
Thank you.
I got it. Ms. Fahey,
Because I won't vote for anything.
do you have any model for us?
Trustee,
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
Do you have a model that you would like us to focus on?
Well, the most and the most.
What does that mean?
The third.
Okay, got it. That's what I needed.
Well, I mean, the one with 2,500, and that's the most.
Got it.
Thank you.
What about any?
That's the number 3.
Well, as a former educator, I feel the same way as Dr. Iries feel. If I'm implementing something in my classroom, the raise is not going to affect me if something's taken away from me as I'm teaching, and then I can't have it anymore because the babies are needing it. So I would like more information on that.
Yes, ma'am.
And any?
Actually, due to the discussion, I guess, what is the next opportunity to discuss the budget?
Right now, our next board meeting. So each board meeting leading up to budget adoption, we will address the budget, bring back to you what you task us with, and then if necessary, we can schedule a budget workshop if that's the board's desire.
Okay.
Seeing there's no further comments or questions?
I got it. That was very helpful for me and the team, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I am going to, Madam Vice President, turn over the podium to Brad Hamrick, who's going to share a presentation with you on ride share and routing.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, members of the board, Dr. Smith. We could advance to the first slide, please. If you'll recall back in October, when I did my annual presentation, I had this slide up there. I kind of went over some of the phone calls that we get, some of the phone calls and the emails that y'all have received as board members about where's my bus, where's my kid, that kind of stuff. So I just want to kind of bring y'all back up to that. Next slide, please. Early last semester, a young kindergarten scholar boarded the bus at Merrifield Elementary to go home. This was just this young scholar's second day to ride the bus. Very excited. He gets to ride the bus with his friends. So the bus is proceeding through the route on the PM route. First stop comes, kids get off, normal routine. Second stop comes. It's a familiar place for this young scholar, so this is where his friends get off. He's played with these kids. He plays with them at this apartment complex where they get off, so he gets off with them. It's not an unfamiliar place for him. It's someplace he's been and he knows. The driver clears the danger zone, turns off the lights, closes the door, and proceeds on to the next stop. At the next stop, same scenario. Kids get off the bus, driver clears the danger zone, driver moves on. The only problem is there's a mom waiting at this stop for this young man that got off at the previous stop. She's not worried, really. I mean, she's a little concerned, but she's not real worried. So she calls the campus. The campus reassures her that their child was put on the bus. So transportation's called. We ask the driver, the driver's radioed. She calls his name on the bus, nobody answers. The driver's asked to pull over, go back and check and see if he possibly fell asleep on the bus. Child's not on the bus. Negative dispatch, scholar's not on the bus. Now the panic sets in. It's setting in with me now, just reliving the story with you. So the panic starts to set in. Campus starts reviewing video. Scholar was put on the bus. So now it's really starting to set in. Drivers that are coming off a route, transportation staff are giving photos of the young man. We're going out to where, we're following along the route, checking those locations where the bus stopped. The ISD police are involved. City of Dallas police are involved. It's just a big source of tension for everybody involved. 10, 15 minutes goes by, we still haven't found this young man. I'm going to leave that and I'm going to go on to the next scenario, to the next story. It's your average high school student, 6 a.m., waiting for a bus. Normally, the bus driver is very punctual. Stop time is 6:08. But what these scholars don't know at this bus stop this morning, on top of it being 30 degrees with the wind chills in the teens, is their bus driver's called in sick. Their bus wouldn't start, so now they're working on a late bus with a sub-bus driver in a sub-bus that they don't know what bus number they're looking for. 6:15, 6:20, still no bus. What do we do? I mean, do we stand out here and freeze, or do we go inside? Do we risk missing school? Do we risk getting sick? Now it's 6:30 and they still don't have a bus. The common thing between these two stories that I've shared with you, the second is more common than the first. The first doesn't happen very often, so I don't want to leave y'all with that impression that that's a huge deal. It's more common at the beginning of the school year than it is later, as the school year moves along and drivers learn their kids. As kids come in and new scholars come in, there's always that possibility of something like that happening. The buses being late or not, just kids not knowing when their bus is coming, that's at least a 2 or 3 time a week deal, just because of traffic situations, those kind of things. So where my bus is the biggest one. But the common denominator here is we are unable to communicate effectively with scholars and parents as far as not only where their kids are, but where their bus is. It results in an appearance of poor customer service. But more importantly, it creates a lack of trust from the community and the stakeholders involved. It's like we can't do our job. I have no way of telling you, so it gives that appearance that we're offering poor customer service. So in November, specs were written for an RFP to solve this problem. The RFP was written. The solution had to be transparent and safety focused. It had to give parents and scholars and authorized district personnel access to their scholars. So a parent could check out just their scholar. Of course, the scholar's only going to know where they're at, but more importantly, it had to give the campuses access on a dashboard so that they would be able to know where their buses are. High school wouldn't know where Alexander's buses are. It would be just specific for their campus. That was part of it. This information had to be available to parents and scholars not only through an app but also through the website. So they would have an app on their phone to obtain the desired information, as well as permitting campuses, like I said, that same information on a dashboard that APs or whoever they designated would have access to. ID badges will be supplied for all scholars. But the badge also has to be able to function not only as their bus pass, but their ID badge has to be able to function as their nutrition for when they go through the lunch line, libraries, wherever else that they utilize their current ID badge. It has to be able to do that. Tablets and badge scanners would be installed on all the buses and update our GPS system from 8 years ago, from when we first started tracking buses. Next slide, please. January 14th, Duncanville, we received 9 responses to this RFP. All vendors were given 1 hour to demonstrate their product via Zoom. I believe we had one that actually came and did it live. District staff evaluated those responses. The staff that evaluated those responses included transportation staff, technology staff, and purchasing staff. We evaluated those responses, and I believe the tabulations and the evaluation notes from those are included in y'all's packet. So, initial cost of the project up front is $231,601. with an annual recurring cost of $90,556. Now, that initial cost, what that includes is all of those things I just mentioned to you. It includes badges for 12,000 students. It includes tablets on all the buses to help facilitate that, the badge readers, or the badge readers. It updates our routing software from 8 years ago that we've been working with, and it also updates our GPS software from 8 years ago. The recurring cost is $90,000. Like I said, we're currently spending $61,000 for the products that we're using, which only includes routing software and GPS. That's it. So the additional $29,556 would be added to the transportation budget to support that project ongoing for the coming years. The operational advantages of moving forward with this, one is it moves the routing software from our servers to the cloud, freeing up server space and IT time, tech support time from technology. It eliminates the need for return trips for scholars. They know when their bus is coming, they're able to see that, so they can be out when the bus is out rather than waiting out or missing the bus. Maximizing class, and that maximizes in-class time. We're not turning around to go get buses. That's also saving on fuel, wages, those kind of things. The tablets, not only will they tell you if a scholar is supposed to get on or off at a specific stop, it also doubles as turn-by-turn navigation. So when I go out on a bus in the morning, rather than having a folded piece of paper with left and right turns, trying to look in the dark and see with the dome lights where I'm going, it's on a screen, and it's both audio and visual as far as turn-by-turn directions. It also allows us to utilize daily counts so that we can maximize ridership and routing efficiency. So if we have a route that's running low on scholars, we can move those things around so that we're more frugal with our money, I guess is the way to put it. That might not be the right word, but we're managing our money better. It allows us to communicate transparently with stakeholders. We are able to push notifications to parents if a bus is running late, if a bus breaks down, when a sub-bus comes in and they click on that route to say, okay, so I'm driving Route 48, but I'm going to sub for Route 6. When I click on Route 6, it tells them that whatever bus I'm in is picking them up. It's automatic and it's live in the app. But most importantly, it's a huge investment in our students' safety and security. Next slide, please. Education Logistics is the company that we've decided to go with. Districts in the area that are currently using them is Denton ISD and Mansfield ISD. Killeen is using the system, as well as larger districts in the state like Katy ISD and Clear Creek ISD in the Houston area are using this system also. The timeline for the project, we started, if a PO was issued today, we would have equipment within 3 weeks and be able to go run live simulations within 5 to 6 weeks. So I have Mr. Pete Salinas with Education Logistics, and sorry, I forgot his name. And Mr. Austin Smith with Samsara, who is the GPS people. They are here also in the back, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Hey, Madam Vice President, may I make a statement for the board, please?
Absolutely, Dr. Smith.
Thank you, board. Just wanted you to be mindful. This is an information item this month because we wanted to bring it to you, see if you gave us approval to move forward. If you do and you feel good about it, then we'll put it on the agenda as an action item in, in May at our follow-up board meeting. So just wanted y'all to know that.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Trustee Colton?
I think it is a wonderful idea, and it's a solution which addresses, the problems that were presented. So I do have a question. So if students should get off early, would there be like an alarm or something like that?
Yes, ma'am. It will actually notify the driver. In fact, if you go back to that kindergarten scholar, okay, so he gets on the bus at the school, he badges on, the parent's notified. my baby's on the bus. So when it comes to that stop where he got off that looks familiar to him, he goes to badge off, and it's an X. This isn't your stop. So the driver holds him back. He proceeds on to the next stop. He badges off, green light, goes and meets his mom. All of that, going back to the campus, all that worry, the police, all of that goes away.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's a wonderful idea. So also, could it be used to push messages, like in the event, school is delayed or canceled or something like that? I'm pretty sure, the parents, I guess, would get those messages, which...
Yeah, in addition to what already goes out through communications, yes. I mean, and we can push messages live during the day. So say a bus breaks down and we still have 5 stops to pick up. We can notify just those 5 stops that a sub-bus is going to be on the way and it will be running late. Those kind of things.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so has the company been in business for a while, or how long have they been doing this?
If I recall, I believe Education Logistics actually began the routing software. Pete, would you like to?
Yeah, we've been around since 1978, so 40 plus years.
That's great. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
More comments or questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Is this it? Okay. So we will move. Yeah. So now we will move to the information discussion agenda. Item B, Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps, JROTC at Duncanville High School. The presenter, Dr. Jrotc Jordan.
Good evening again, Madam Vice President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. I am excited to stand before you tonight to provide you with a JROTC update. So, Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps offers leadership opportunities for students. And when we're looking at JROTC, we have the option of selecting Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, or Army. And so the Army JROTC provides a 4-year tiered sequence of courses emphasizing citizenship, problem solving, and decision-making skills. Next slide. So I am excited to tell you that Duncanville ISD will launch the Army JROTC at Duncanville High School beginning the 22-23 school year. So over the next few slides, we're going to talk about where are we now in this process. It's April. We will discuss facility requirements, budgets, next steps, and recruiting effort. Next slide. So where are we now in April in hopes of launching we will be launching our program in August. We have identified the program location at Duncanville High School, and I will share a little more information in just a moment. We've received our inspection and of the recommended locations, and then we have to submit 2 applications, one locally for JROTC and one nationally, and both applications have been submitted for us to have a recognized program here in Duncanville. And then we've already launched our recruitment efforts and communication to key stakeholders. So facility requirements and budget. I want to take a moment just to thank so many different individuals who have participated in facility walks. We conducted 3 different meetings and walks to make sure that we had as many voices in as possible, whether it was through JROTC services, the Duncanville High School staff. Mr. McDonald had a large team to provide input and guidance with the locations, the athletic department, operations, because we knew some of the rooms may take or need renovation, and then the CNI CTE department. Again, they met on 3 different occasions. They walked 3 different times just to make sure we were all aligned and we met the requirements for the facility. When looking at location considerations, we look at many different places, I'm sure, at Duncanville High School. The first, which is the most important, is to have minimum disruption to the high school. Second is looking at space for future growth. So we have a program that we want to put in place right now, but we're not building the program for now, we're building the program for the future. So one of the facilities that we looked at was the baseball facility. That sounds like a great location for right now, but it will not allow us to grow our program any further. Then we wanted to make sure that we had a location that was near an outdoor space. So in just a moment, when I flip the slide, I'll tell you the location, but it's the west area of the building, and that outside location has this kind of hilly terrain, which is perfect for JROTC, and they're marching and they're parading, so it's perfect. Next slide. So I alluded to the facilities requirement. We have to have a classroom, we have to have storage space, and we have to have office spaces. Again, this large team of individuals put their heads together. They did a lot of collaboration, a lot of looking at the space. Again, thankful for Mr. McDonald and the Duncanville High School staff who really helped us see a bigger vision past just in this moment. So we will mainly be using the rooms in the 200 hallway, looking at 2 existing office spaces, 2 existing classrooms, and then 3 existing storage rooms. What we will do is share some of those storage rooms with athletics currently, so we're not relocating everyone. We will take the offices and make sure that all of JROTC is in one space. So again, mainly the 200 hallway, and that allows for us to have expansion. So this program will be on one entire side of the building, where planning for today, we might use 2 classrooms on the west side and then 3 classrooms on the east side, and our program is completely spread out. We were able to work together and say, right now, we're anticipating X amount of students, and that's still early for us to give you that number, but 2 years from now, that number may double or triple, and we want to make sure we don't disrupt the program, while also making sure that Mr. McDonald and that high school can continue to provide high-quality education, and we're not disrupting the classrooms as well. Next slide. So then we think about program expenditures, which is probably a difficult conversation as we're reviewing the budget, but I do want to walk us through how much will adding JROTC cost. So we have the initial startup. We will bring in 2 JROTC instructors. That's approximately $130,000, but that depends on their salary, so it could go up or down just a little bit. That also includes any materials that we need for startup and any potential construction cost. An operations team has already walked, and they've done a phenomenal job of providing us with an estimate of what we think it will take for us to renovate those classrooms. In addition to the startup cost, we have JROTC here. So how much will it cost for us to sustain JROTC year after year? And we're looking at approximately $150,000. That includes the instructor salaries, and it also includes the resources and materials the students will need. Next slide. So this all sounds great. We've submitted our applications, we've identified our locations, but what are we doing to make sure our families and our students know that we are bringing JROTC to Duncanville? Next slide. So we've hosted a series of family nights at the middle schools and at the high school. We had a recent one at the high school where we had 45 students and families attend to express interest in JROTC. We're making sure that we post this anywhere and everywhere, so all over our social media. We have flyers that we're sending out to families. We want to make sure that we don't miss anyone, so we don't leave any stone unturned. We will continue to have family nights just to get the message out as well. I believe last year there was a presentation to you guys just giving you a timeline of where we are going with JROTC. We've made so much progress. So we're recruiting students, we're talking to our students. Our partners with Dallas ISD is also coming out to talk to our students and families. We've secured the facility, we've conducted the inspections, our applications are submitted. We have hoping to earmark our funds. We are ready to launch JROTC in August. And then once we launch it, we will work really hard to make sure that we do something phenomenal for that first class, right? That's so exciting for them. We want to make sure that we cultivate the interest at the middle school. We will continue to earmark the funds as we work through our budget, and then make sure that we identify ongoing program needs. So it's a new program for us, again, so we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs in advance and being proactive instead of waiting and being reactive. I know I've provided you a lot of information, and it's been a long night, but I'm happy to answer any questions or comments that you have at this time.
Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Trustee Colton, and then Carla Fahey.
Go ahead.
I don't.
The 200 hallway, is that on the west side of the campus?
Yes, it is on the west side of the campus.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Colton?
I am very excited. I think this initiative came from the board.
Yes.
And so we have to, thank Dr. Smith and his staff, but I participated in JROTC in high school, and I know the value that it adds. So I'm very excited about this program. And thank you all very much. You have a planned out plan of attack, and I'm just very excited about it. And I'm very excited for the students who will participate. So, but I do have a question regarding recruitment. So how will the cadets be identified or selected?
So what is currently happening is we have the middle school nights where we've just provided information to the campuses and then provided information to families. And then the same thing for the high school, but we've also contacted the counselors and had them give us names of students that they think that are interested, and then we're reaching out to those families individually.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
Trustee Carla Fahey?
Yes, do the cadets receive a phys ed credit?
Yes, so this would be equivalent to PE or athletics.
Is that going to influence high school staffing with the phys ed coaches, teachers?
No, ma'am. So our JROTC instructors will be the one to provide that support.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Ivory?
So the 200 hallway, isn't that upstairs?
It's downstairs on the west side. Sorry, I'm deferring to Mr. McDonald on this one.
Greetings, Madam Vice President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. To answer your question, it is upstairs. You know, on that side of the West Campus, it's an upstairs and a downstairs.
So it's the east side of the campus?
No, ma'am, it's the west side of the campus.
The west side?
On the west side, the end of that building near the old gymnasium.
The old hallway?
Yeah.
Got it.
Or the cafeteria as you walk down that hallway.
Okay.
There's a classroom, and then you go down the stairs.
Yes.
To enter the bottom gym, the bottom two gyms, and then there's another adjacent classroom.
Okay, now I can picture that. I have one more question. I was told that we had JROTC on the campus years ago, and there was already like a gun range. Is it just less expensive, or does it what's our rationale for using the classroom? I didn't see that location. Did you guys? Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes. We have identified a location that we would like to utilize. That location is the auxiliary gym. We're not going to convert it because that space is utilized by softball, by tennis when it rains outside. So it'll be a multi-purpose facility that we'll put a schedule in place working with athletics, or ROTC will be able to utilize that space to do the shooting.
Okay, so it's not exclusively theirs?
No, ma'am.
It's a shared space? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Jordan, I think we'll be giving a tour soon as well, won't we?
Yes, once we start to renovate those areas, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Moving on. So we will move to the information discussion agenda item C, heating, ventilation, and cooling HVAC replacement and air quality plan. The presenter, Andrea Fields.
And good evening, Madam Vice President, board members, and Dr. Smith and waiting audience. I will expedite our report tonight because we just have a few things we just want to share with you. First of all, we thank you, board, for allowing us to use some of our ESSER funds. We earmarked about $3.5 million. We came to you, I think, last year to discuss what we plan to do. And so with that, we're going to show you what we have done so far. Next slide. Of course, air quality enhances the learning environment, and of course, part of Dr. Jordan's report, she shared with you that healthy schools, and so this is the part of this plan. You see there, board, I won't read those to you, the multiple rooftop units that have already been installed since the fall over the Thanksgiving holiday break when no one was working except our wonderful maintenance team along with our vendor, Train and Climatech. They worked. You see there 147 rooftop units. We finished up the last part of this phase 1 in January of 2022. Next slide. Showing some visuals there for you of the work, the cranes, etc., at some of the various facilities. You may have seen that old Panther Field even got a new unit, so it'll be cool there when we have the soccer and other middle school games. Next slide. Installation, of course, I just said at Old Panther Field and the Moldry Gym at Reed Middle School, and of course the work that was done there, and thank Ms. Paterka for taking these photos for us. Next slide. And then at Hyman, I want to highlight, we had to use the helicopter to remove the units and to install the units. We had to communicate with our safety groups, our police, et cetera, so they would realize that the helicopter was getting close to the school. So we thank them for their support. So next slide. And want to share, I know we talked about air quality enhancement, and so with this we have the technical information there with bipolar ionization with all units, and what this really helps us to do is like your air purifier at your home, but this is really a commercial grade air purification system, and it, of course we have the definition there, but that's what all of the new units have installed. Many hospitals, other large industries have this kind of unit that helps to remove all the contaminants in the air. So that part we're very excited about. It's really going to help us continue. We've almost eradicated the flu with being able to use this. Next slide. And then, of course, just so we can be more efficient, all of the units, of course, were added the Allerton with our Allerton software, the ACM direct digital controllers, and really it just helps with a lot of sensors. We added a lot of sensors, we added a lot of thermostats, so that our system, as you know, it's all timed on technology. So our technology system, we can continue to control our temperature, etc. So all the fans, the air from the outside, and so this system talks to our software system as we manage our energy, and we're hoping that because of the new installations, this will help our energy to be a lot more efficient. And last slide, I think. And next phase for us as we move forward, there have been earmarked some additional funds there, board. You see those, and these are the places, again, with the new technologies that we hope to be able to begin work. We've already kind of started on our technical plans with our vendor, and so we thank you very, very much. That's my report, unless you have any questions.
Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing that there aren't any, Trustee Fahey.
Just one, what is a wall pack unit? What's that?
A wall pack unit, I may have to call on Mr. Paterka, he's back there. You want to...
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We are good.
All right, thank you so much.
We will move to the information discussion agenda item D, technology update. The presenter is Dr. Brian Brown.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Smith. It is my pleasure to provide an update on the Student One-to-One Computing Program scheduled to begin this fall. The first update I have for you is that we've given an official name to the program other than calling it Ubiquitous Computing or One-to-One Program. It is going to be called the Impact Learning Program. The Impact Learning Program mission is to inspire, motivate performance, and access collaboration through technology and learning. We are very excited to be able to offer this program. I also want to provide you with an update on the timeline for the Impact Learning Program. We are continuing to work with the Technology Advisory Committee on the planning documentation, but that has not stopped us from moving into the training phase. We have already started offering professional development, in conjunction with the Curriculum Instruction Department on tools that support a one-to-one environment and will continue throughout the remainder of the spring and into the summer. As we enter into next school year, we will continue to provide professional development opportunities, and we currently plan to begin device distribution in September. The delay between the start of school and device distribution is an opportunity for principals and teachers to establish campus expectations and set classroom norms. Finally, once devices have been distributed, we will continue to offer professional development targeted at supporting teachers in a one-to-one environment. Finally, I offer a few highlights on the work of the Technology Advisory Committee. Each student in Duncanville ISD from pre-K3 through 12th grade will be issued a device intended to be used for academic purposes. The device will remain with the student unless he or she graduates, unenrolls from the district, or is expected to receive a new device. For example, students moving from 1st to 2nd grade will move from an iPad to a Chromebook. The committee is working to establish the expectation that the care devices should be the same level as the expectations associated with other school property, like textbooks. And lastly, the use of student devices will be limited to compliance with the Student Handbook, Code of Conduct, and Acceptable Use Policy. I am happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Any comments or questions? Seeing that there aren't any, thank you so much. We will move to the information discussion agenda item E, COVID-19 update. The presenter is Dr. Karen Holochka.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, trustees, and Dr. Smith. In accordance with strategic goals 1 and 2 under student academic success, tonight we're pleased to share with you our monthly COVID-19 update and how we are addressing the learning loss of our students. Each month, we share with you our enrollment numbers and our trends in our attendance. In March, we saw some improvements in our attendance. However, as you can see, there are still some opportunities for improvement. For the past 2 years, we have really provided leniency to our families in regards to attendance as a result of the pandemic. We've had several families that really needed this leniency, and of course it created a safety net for our students academically. However, now that we have more students and staff vaccinated, we've seen our COVID trends decline, and because we know that our schools are safe, it's time for us to get students back in school on a consistent, routine basis. This year, we've done several things to support attendance, including our student incentive program called the Roll Call Rewards. And as in past years, we have notified parents when students were absent, and we've engaged in our truancy prevention measures. However, we still have some students, even with home visits and counseling sessions, that are continuing to be habitually absent. It's for this reason that we will be increasing our efforts next year to increase our attendance. We are currently piloting and will fully implement next year an automated system for our truancy prevention measures. This will make sure that interventions are taking place on a consistent basis and we can effectively track where campuses are in need of support. We have also utilized the District of Innovation Plan. The language in that plan for the past 2 years has allowed students who fall below that 90% required attendance policy to continue to receive course credit for those extenuating circumstances based on the pandemic. But moving forward, we will realign with district policy and all students will be held to the attendance requirement of 90%, or they will have to make up the lost time in order to receive credit, unless, of course, there is truly an extenuating circumstance. We're also looking to create acknowledgements and incentives for the campuses that are able to increase their attendance, and as well as other initiatives throughout the year. We all know that in order for students to learn in the best of circumstances, they must be in attendance at school at least 90% of the time. With the learning loss, however, we know our students need to extend this because every day matters. So attendance and enrollment are both obviously very important to the financial condition of our district. So as we look at enrollment, so far it continues to remain stable for this year, but of course we're really focused on next year and increasing our enrollment numbers by promoting the great programs and opportunities for our students. Enrollment is currently open for all students, and we are already seeing some positive numbers, especially in our pre-K applications. We're already ahead of our enrollment when we compare it to this time last year. And like Dr. Smith shared earlier, on April 7th, we had our pre-K Roundup, and I'm excited to share that, of course, we had an amazing turnout. The future students that attended the event received a special Duncanville ISD t-shirt, as you can see here, and we were able to enroll 99 students for next year. Currently, as you see on the slide, we have 327 pre-K enrollees at this time for next year. And finally, as far as our COVID cases, we are continuing to see very low numbers. We are remaining diligent in our safety protocols, and as I have shared earlier, we know that our schools are safe for learning. I'll now turn it over to Ms. Kathleen Brown to talk about our staff COVID numbers.
Good evening, Madam Vice President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith. In line with what Dr. Holochka just shared, it is my pleasure to inform you that we're still holding strong with 0 positive cases in staff members. We're just over 6 weeks, so we're very excited about that. Next slide, please. I'm also excited to share, as Dr. Smith did earlier, that we've had those 2 job fairs. This slide is just to share some of the data from those job fairs as far as how many individuals pre-registered, how many registered on site, the total registrants for each of those job fairs, how many actually attended, which is always different from those who've registered, and then how many we've hired. And so if I highlight there from our auxiliary job fair, with those 40 that attended, 3 of those individuals have already been hired and started. Others are continuing to interview, and we anticipate additional being recommended for our auxiliary positions. As it relates to our teacher and instructional staff job fair, thank you to those of you who attended. We really enjoyed having you there with us. We were able to offer 3 letters of intent to hire on Saturday in some hard-to-fill areas. 2 of them are bilingual teachers, so we are ecstatic about that. They were very impressed with the decisions that you've made with the sign-in bonus and the stipend for our bilingual teachers, and they've told others. So we've had people even reach out to us today that weren't able to attend the job fair. And our principals were all there, and their staff, and they've scheduled over 20 interviews for this week and the next week out of those 95. And so one of the things that we saw was that although the number was smaller, we've had job fairs where we've had upwards to 750 to 800 people. The quality of those 95 that actually attended was great, and so we're doing all we can to have them join the Duncanville ISD family. Thank you.
Good evening. So we are focused on writing success stories one child at a time from early childhood to college. One of my favorite quotes is, we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families, and recognize that kids belong to the whole community. More so now than ever, it takes a village. So I am excited to share with you just 2 updates of where we are from early childhood to college. Next slide. Dr. Holochka mentioned earlier that we've received over 110 applications for pre-K3 and then 217 applications for pre-K4. It is great to have just a united front as we're working to capture students into Duncanville ISD. The early childhood and bilingual departments have been working to connect with the community. I call it grassroots efforts. So they are going and they have door hangers that they're placing on doors. Our pre-K students are not necessarily our current students. So we think about having flyers in the front office, but we want to go out and get students who may not have any experience with Duncanville. So they are placing door hangers on doors, they're leaving flyers at our local businesses, and then you saw the picture of the cuties in the pre-K shirts. That's our marketing advertisement, right? So you go to Walmart, you go to different stores, you see kids that are so cute in those shirts, and you go, where are you going to school? It says right there, Duncanville ISD. So that group, along with SI Squared, has been working really hard just to connect with our community and bring students into Duncanville. Next slide. So once we have our early childhood, which we know is our foundation, our next goal is to make sure that our seniors get to college and that they are successful. And so I am happy to share that 71% of our class of 2022 seniors have completed their FAFSA. We have a phenomenal CCMR team that's been working hard. You can see them in the picture, just to offer evening events for our students, for our parents, for our families, whatever it takes just to get those students in and FAFSA completed. So that's approximately 670 students so far. This concludes our COVID update. We are happy to answer any questions or hear any comments at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion? We will now move to communications from citizens. Being that there are no further items to discuss, this meeting is adjourned.